In Print Radio. In Print is a professional writers organization located in Rockford, Illinois. We're dedicated to providing resources and education off the page and on the air. Hello, I'm Bob Francis. Today, In Print member Sharon Bolefeld sits down with author Joanne Fastoff.
Hi, Joanne. Thanks for coming out to be part of our show.
Thank you, Sharon.
You told me before we went on the air that your fourth book is you're working on your fourth book?
I just submitted it to my publisher.
Mm-hmm. Is this going to continue with any of the characters that we
Absolutely.
know? Absolutely.
Howard Watson is back again in another mystery intrigue.
One of the things that I liked about The Lie, which is the only one of your books that I've read so far, is the cast of characters is so diverse. It's just, the people are from everywhere, and the talents, the languages. How did you come to want to write that kind of a novel?
Well, I grew up in Hyde Park, very diverse neighborhood, and all I knew were kids who were mixed. Pretty much someone who wasn't mixed was real different. So growing up in that kind of environment, diverse to us was something that somebody else told us. So, Japanese and black lived across the street from us, and I would listen to Mrs. Payne tell me all about being in an internment camp, where her children didn't ever listen to her stories, but, your children don't listen to your stories. So I listened to her stories growing up, and I thought, oh, my God, what a life. And I pretty much listened to everybody else's stories, and I decided that I was kind of a global person. And what can I do as a global person? Well, reduce it to writing. And that's pretty much how I decided that my characters would be those that I knew. And it would be false of me to invent other people when these existed.
It's such a fascinating group of people. How did you decide you wanted to write thriller mysteries?
When I was 13, going on 13, I wrote my first play, and it was called Mystery of the Closed Door. And that, I invited all the kids from my block to be in the play, and I knew that if I invited them, their parents would come, and they would pay to get into our basement, have some Kool-Aid and popcorn, and they did. So I wrote this story, Mystery of the Closed Door. I would sing it for you, but then I'd lose anybody that might be remotely interested in me, okay?
So this was a musical?
Only the song.
Oh,
okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And in the play, one of the kids in the play died at the wrong time, mm-hmm. And so I closed the curtains, which were the sheets, and then I made him re-die. All right.
That's great. That's the alternate timeline version, as they would do today. What did you always want to be a writer? I mean, or did it just spring upon you when you were 12?
I have always wanted to be a writer since I was 12. I wrote my first story was called The Fight, and it was about two girls that were fighting after school, and all the boys were egging them on, tearing off your clothes and things like that. I'm going, oh my God, no, and then all of a sudden, one girl tore off the other girl's blouse, and I could hear in the background all the boys going, beat her, get her, tear her clothes off. It was all in slow motion. But the only thing that caught my eye was this girl's bra. It was so white. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, how did she get her bra so white? That's what I'm thinking in this fight, right? And so I wrote it, and I submitted it to Reader's Digest, a young person's contest, and I got an honorable mention.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So and it was
great.
called The Fight. And then the second story that I submitted to Reader's Digest was called Zebra, and that's what mixed kids were called when we were little. And my father said, don't submit that. And I said, okay, and then I did. And then I got an honorable mention. And this was in 1963, and I got $50 in 1963. So then my father said, oh, and he marched me right over to the bank, and I opened up my first bank account.
That's kind of cool.
So I thought maybe you could make some money with this.
Exactly. You never got that. Oh, writers never. They live in garrets. They never make money. You didn't get that.
No. That's because I kind of shelved it for a little bit until I got into college. I was always writing a journal, always. So I always put pen to paper before I put my head to the pillow. I wrote about something. Even if nothing happened that day, I said, nothing happened, enough said. Then the next day, then I write about what really happened, okay?
So when did you publish your first novel?
2015.
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay, let's back up. 2005.
Okay.
My first book, The Gordian Knot.
Okay. Now, who is in that? Because I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Okay, that is where I introduce Howard Watson.
Okay.
And it's a personal story for Howard because his colleague, another FBI agent, was murdered. And that colleague told his son and his wife, if anything happened to me, they were in Chicago. If anything happened to me, you have to get to Washington, D.C. to my buddy, Howard Watson. He will take care of you. Okay. And then he was murdered, and the book is about the quest to get to D.C. Howard wasn't even introduced until the last third of the book.
Really? Wow.
And that's about the Iranian rescue mission in 1980 that was sabotaged.
Okay. So yeah, you really have picked amazingly contemporary subject matter. When you opened The Lie in Africa, oh my God, my heart broke. I'm sure that's what your intention was, but it put such a real touch to something that I'd read about in papers, which is, the blood diamonds. What brought you to that particular plot?
I like global conflicts that come across our shore. And as Americans, we have such a myopic view on the world. We think the only thing that exists outside of us is nothing. We're ugly in the sense that we don't realize things we buy impact lives in other countries that could be illegal, that cause people to break out in war. We do so many things, we buy so many things that we don't realize who is this affecting, okay? And diamonds, I didn't see the movie Blood Diamonds for the specific reason that I was writing pretty much on the same subject, except I was writing from the victim's perspective. And I just thought that especially women, we are just lied to all our lives about the fact that diamonds are so rare, and they're not. And that a diamond is a girl's best friend, and it's not. It's a retailer's best friend. But the people who are mining these diamonds, the children, they're 7 to 12 years old. They die of heart attacks at 12. They have limbs severed. If they decide they don't want to work in the mine, they are drafted into the army, the military, and they're drugged. And the reason why these mine owners use these young people is because they know that the teenagers and the adults will steal the diamonds. The young people only believe that what they're doing is bringing a paycheck in. So they're willing to do that, even though they're working 15 hours a day, a 12-year-old. Okay.
And not exactly in easy conditions.
That hit me. It was, I like poignant subjects, and any subject that we're not really sure where it originates. I like that. I mean, everybody knows that the Titanic happened. Now, did Rose and Jack Dawson live? No. And so, but that's one person's story, and that's what I like to write about. And I don't change what the real thing in life is, that real thing that's happening. I don't change that at all. Whatever that conflict is, I don't change it. I just change one person's story. And I think that gives me a lot of creative license.
Boy, I guess. I mean, the connection between the death that opens up the story, it took a while for that actually to unfold, and that was one of the things that I liked about the book. But immediately I meet these characters who have such incredible talents. It's like, oh, this one speaks Japanese, so does this one. These people read Russian.
I know those people.
That's amazing.
I grew up with those people, and so. And these are average people. Tim Yamamoto, he's black and Japanese. I know a lot of black and Japanese guys. They tell me the history of their grandparents living on the West Coast that were thrown into internment camps, okay, during World War II. All of their goods, their home were taken away from them. And then 20 years after World War II ended, the U.S. government gives them $20,000 each. And they took it. Right. I would too. But those are not great stories. That's coming out of our country. But I know people that speak Russian. I know these people that have My grandparents came here to escape the Bolshevik Revolution. They stay under the radar to be perfect Americans. And sometimes in being a perfect American, you become invisible. And then my father, first generation American, became very visible. Okay, so then he has these offspring that are very visible because he said to us 4 girls, you can be anything you want to be, go anywhere you want to go, do anything you want to do because you're Americans. Okay, we go, okay, all right. And so those kinds of stories come out of people, and I'm always listening. And in my family, they say, don't say too much in front of Joanne because you'll find it in a book.
So, do you have background in the FBI or this?
No, none. I have a sorta, I'm not going to even say semi, I'm going to say sorta relationship with an FBI consultant.
Okay.
He's retired, and he's Chicago FBI Violent Crimes Task Force. So he knows the gamut of everything that happens in the FBI, happens in police, and he would edit what I'd be writing, and I'd say, George, would an FBI agent say this? And he'd go, no. And then he'd fix it. Like I'd say, women, some of the men in FBI thought the women were getting easy jobs. And he'd say, no, soft assignments. So he would edit it like that, or he'll tell me that that's not how the procedure would work. Or I'd say, I'd have a medical consultant too, a best friend who's a doctor. And I'd say, Lane, I don't want her to die. So I want her to be shot, but tell me medically what happened to her and what the prognosis is and da-da-da-da-da. And so therefore I sound like I really know something.
Yeah, you do.
So I don't want to insult my readers. And I don't want a doctor saying something like, where does she get this from? Or an FBI agent or a cop going, where does she get this from? But saying, who does she know? Right. Just like you asked.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's kind of the quality that I'm looking for.
Well, I think you've gotten it. I need to read the rest of your books now. And I'm sure that's what we're trying to do in a way.
We'll be back with more of Sharon's interview with Joanne right after this. Welcome back to Imprint Radio. Sharon Bolefeld is talking with author Joanne Fastoff.
I want to talk about how your writing process works. Do you start with the little seed of an idea for a plot? Where did your stories come from?
I have a development plan, and it's always in 3 parts. So the beginning of my plan is, what kind of story do I want to write? Now, I might not have the complete premise, but I have a bit of it. Let's say maybe like 40% of something. And so I set up my plot. I set up the problems. Then I develop those problems. Then I deepen the problem. And then I'm on my way to solving it. But the beginning of my plot I'll have, and maybe even the ending. But somewhere in the middle, who's going to die? Who's going to get hurt? Who's going to be pregnant? Who's going to da-da-da? And that middle there can get so muddled that I have to really, really take my time in saying this part has to match or be better than the ending. Has to be better than that, because then the ending would make sense. But even in that middle part, I want somebody to say, what? Okay, but not what? What? Oh, man. Oh, wow. Oh, she got me, or I didn't see that coming. And so that middle part has my unbelievable attention, because I really have to struggle with making it make sense. And not just make sense to me, Joanne, who's writing it, but make sense to you who's reading it.
Right.
Saying, oh, that's where she's going. Because even in the lie, more than one person was lying.
No kidding.
More than one person was lying. And someone even asked me, why didn't you say the name of the book was Lies? I said, then you'd be looking for more than one. But when I can catch you with,
right.
This is another one, then that's how I like to do it.
Yeah.
But I have a development plan, and I always put it in 3 parts. And then I just make sure that all 3 of them match. The middle doesn't have to make sense, But it has to match.
And you're talking about matching in tone and matching in severity, importance.
Matching in pacing.
Yeah,
pacing. I can't rush the ending. Just because I want to end this book, no, I can't do that. I can't rush the middle. I have to set up all of my characters so that you know who you're going to be looking for. If I don't put a first and last name to somebody, you don't have to look for them. Really? But if there's a first and last name, I'm making a point that you got to know this person. You got to know why this person went that way instead of the other way. Why this person decided to deal in illegal diamonds instead of with an economics background teach or whatever. So I want to give you a little background on that person so that you know that just because someone is in jail doesn't mean that's how they started off. No one came out of the womb saying, I'm going to jail. What happened in this person's life to make them go in that direction? And whether or not you condone their action, you understand it. Condoning is not a big thing. Okay,
Right.
Understanding it takes more of us it takes more out of us to do.
Yes. Mm-hmm. When you are doing this development process, how do you develop individual characters? What do you write notes about that person? Do you have like a special section of your file cabinet or computer devoted to that person?
I love research. So let's take Nikolai Grigorovsky, Russian character. Read everything about Norilsk, Russia. The snow is never white because of the iron manufacturing companies. They're the largest manufacturer of iron ore in the world. So there's sulfur in the air. People die of all that stuff that's in the air. So this kind of person escaping that kind of life, you understand it. Now, this person also has a doctorate in something in science. I don't know, whatever. Mm-hmm. But he can't use it because of communism. And Stalin made sure that those kinds of people, artists, musicians, scientists, things like that, that they didn't flourish because then they wouldn't be under their thumb. So he's coming from that kind of background, and he says, I'm going to escape to the United States. So escaping to the United States just means that he's just changing one piece of geography for another because he can't find a job here. So then he not only does he immigrate, he immigrates into stealing, where he's really making a buck. Steal low, sell high,
Right.
So that kind of person, you say, I understand him. I'm not condoning his actions whatsoever, but I understand why he tried to escape from that. And sometimes your background won't let you escape.
Well, there are some characters in here who really don't escape.
They don't. And you know what? I'm not a Hollywood ending person. I'm one person's story. And I just think sometimes people want things to be real soft, and it can't happen that way, specifically if that conflict, that what the book is about, I can't end it. But I can end someone's story, and then maybe it'll be better, but maybe it won't. But that person's story is ended.
But the diamond trade,
I can't end that,
right,
but I can end the person who's persecuted, or the person whose family has been persecuted, or whose family has been dealt a low blow by the diamond industry. And that is a victim's perspective. And what can that victim do? I'm going to let this one victim do this. And let's say it's not legal, but that person can rest, that person can die today and say, I'm okay. Right.
Mm-hmm. There are victims in The Lie, mm-hmm. and there are different kinds of victims. There's like layers of victimhood, I guess. One of the victims and it may be because I know people who were in Vietnam, but the Vietnam veteran was a victim who came in the middle of the story. He was not there for a long time, and yet he was integral to moving the plot forward. And I felt so bad for this one guy who seemed to have gotten caught almost just by virtue of proximity.
Exactly. And the thing about him is that the reason why I let him die is because he'd been dead and he just wasn't buried. He had Vietnam demons, and even the FBI agent said he's, when we say walking dead, that's exactly what he was. And so his real demise, his literal demise, we could all kind of breathe because he was doing something that he loved, and that was taking a man, not letting a man stay on the battlefield, okay, going in there with guns blazing. And I'm Vietnam era too, and I understand that from all the Vietnam era guys that I know. We do not leave a man on the battlefield, and that's what he didn't do.
That's right, he didn't. He died being a hero.
And I gave him that little section of earth because he was invisible, and I didn't want him to be invisible. Okay, I wanted him to be visible for a blazing moment.
Boy, that was a blazing moment.
Yeah.
So much of what you've written, I can see. I could see pieces of, and I wonder if you have considered or are considering film rights to any of these.
Well, all my books are in script too. So yeah, I took a screenwriting class from a professor at Columbia College, and he later won an Oscar. Wow. So I obviously won. I guess I just learned the absolutely correct way. When I write, I didn't know that I was a script writer. I'm just a visual. And in this class, even my professor told me, he said, you write like you're writing a screenplay. And I go, is that good? He said, for people who like to read visual, yeah. He said, this is excellent. He said, but why don't you just try your hand at screenwriting? I go, because I don't like screenwriting. I like writing a novel, because in a novel, I can just write. In screenwriting, I got to set it up, cut to, pan. I can't do that stuff. Now, after I write the novel, then I can go back and write the screenplay, but I can't write one first. So I must be a screenwriter novelist.
I guess.
Okay, yeah. But I like visualization. Yeah. I like for you to think that you're there or you see it.
And I could. And even though you were moving me around in parts of the country, I've never been to Philadelphia. I've been as far as Pittsburgh, but not to Philadelphia. And yet I thought, wow, yeah, it's East Coast. I can see this Washington connection. I can see where they bring people, and I didn't have to know the city itself critically to be able to feel like I could see the incidents that were happening in it. It'd be nice. I'd like to go to Philly and just like put some of those things in my mind. But it was so vivid that I didn't feel somehow that I was missing anything. I knew what was going on. I could see the people, and the interactions between several of the different characters made me wonder, some of them were in a team before. They'd been teamed up in the past. Was that in Gordian not? Was that just backstory for the sake of The Lie?
No, The Pact was my second book.
Oh, The Pact. Okay, sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah, The Pact was my second book. So some of the agents in the third book, The Lie, were in the second book, The Pact.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then some of the people in The Smoke Ring are in The Lie.
And The Smoke Ring is the one that's going to be coming out?
Next month.
Next month?
And that's about tobacco smuggling.
Oh, really? Oh, how cool. Now, where do people smuggle tobacco go?
Oh,
I don't think about, other than across state line because it's cheaper to pay taxes and
That's a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're talking about tobacco smuggling in the United States is bigger than the heroin industry.
Really?
The heroin smuggling industry, yes.
Wow.
That's why these governors all over the United States are trying to raise taxes on cigarettes, that would help their bottom line statewide,
Absolutely.
especially Illinois.
No.
But the thing is that they also believe that if they raise the prices of cigarettes, that young people will stop smoking. That is such a joke. It ain't going to happen.
No, it never has.
Find people in the streets selling cigarettes singularly for 50 cents. It's not going to happen.
Stay tuned for more of Sharon's interview with Joanne right after this. We're back with Sharon Bolefeld talking with Joanne Fastoff on In Print Radio.
Okay.
So, where's the next novel set?
The Smoke Ring is set on the East Coast because Howard is from Washington, D.C.
Right.
He came, let me back up for a second. In The Pact, Howard was introduced in the second half of the book because the first half of the book is set in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
He comes in because they don't have a Russian specialist, and because drugs, which is about the second book, it's not so much that people are buying and selling drugs as the money they get from the drugs, they're buying guns to feed the insurgents in Africa. That's where Howard comes in. Guns is his background in Russian. And the tobacco states are Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the tobacco growing states.
Okay.
And that's where this set. And since Virginia is right over the Potomac
Right.
from D.C. and Maryland, D.C. dropped right into Maryland. So it's Howard's geography now.
Right.
Okay?
So now I know you were raised in Chicago and you live there now. Have you lived on the East Coast? Did you spend time in Washington?
I lived in New York, New Jersey, Denver, Colorado. I lived north of San Francisco in St. Louis. So I've lived a lot.
So you got a lot of U.S. geography you're going to be able to draw on.
I do, especially, and I love to drive. So, always driving from like Chicago to wherever,
Right.
Chicago to wherever. And so I know the geography, the physical geography, and especially like Pennsylvania is 7 hours wide. Oh my God. Okay. And you only get to the beautiful part. I hope the Pennsylvania people aren't listening, but you really only get to the beautiful part on the Appalachians or the Poconos, things like that, the Alleghenies, I meant. And so you go, oh, finally. And then you're in New York. Okay. What's up with this,
Limited beauty.
I love the United States. It's just so beautiful. It is the most beautiful place. And I've been outside the country, but the United States has such a, talking about diversity, has such a diverse of mountains and water and trees and it's just the most beautiful place on earth to me. The Grand Canyon, the Royal Gorge, the Colorado River, the Hoover Dam. I'm just beautiful. And Illinois, if you go down southern Illinois and you see all those wind turbines, oh my God, that's the most beautiful look in the world, okay? Or you see the corn or the beans and, that's feeding somebody,
Right.
Oh man. And I'm not just talking about, trees and bushes and things like that. I'm just talking about just the beautifulness of the United States. The people could just mirror that. Boy, we'd be something, wouldn't we?
You're right.
We'd be a bunch of great looking people. Providing, so.
Have you got one in the works after Smoke
I do.
Ring?
I do. I feel like I was going through withdrawals. Okay. Right now I'm writing The Standing People, and that's about illegal logging. And the Standing People in the Seneca Nation, that stands for trees. Okay. And they consider trees to be the most perfect thing God ever provided, or whatever the great mystery is that we call them. And so the next book is just called The Standing People.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's another Howard Watson mystery.
I was going to ask, how's the FBI going to sneak into this?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, my FBI consultant, I wrote him, and I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I know this is a Department of Justice case, illegal logging, but how does the FBI get into this? And there's so many, he sent me so many ways, okay? And so now I just have to do my development plan. Where am I going with this? Besides the fact that illegal logging causes the country of Madagascar, which is off the southeast tip of Africa, we're stealing their wood, rosewood and ebony. It's illegal to log those because if you take down all those trees, there are none left in the world. Okay, so it's illegal to log those trees. But a company in the United States, I'm not going to name the guitar company, they just got slapped with a fine because a lot of their guitars were of rosewood. And they said that they didn't know this. Okay, whatever. The Department of Justice said you did. But anyway, based on that, I noticed that it's illegal to cut down any rosewood or ebony trees. And that's what I'm writing about. I'm writing about the people of Madagascar. You would take away their future. It's just, and that's another global problem. And it's on our shores again. But the Chinese are the major criminals in this particular action because I read that the Chinese love exotic things. And rosewood furniture they love it. So if you can sell it, somebody, they're going to buy it. And
Right.
and that's what's happening in Madagascar. But it's at our shores now.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So where do you get your ideas? Just read the newspaper?
I read anything that's world conflicts. So maybe I got this out of U.S. News and World Report. Or maybe I got an economics magazine. Or maybe I was just reading the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post or the New York Times or maybe the Tribune. And then I just read. I just like to read what's happening in the world. I know what's happening here,
right,
but I want to read what's happening in the world. And how is that affecting us? Well, the reason why they're writing about it, it must affect us in some way. Otherwise, we don't care. And then I read more about it and see if it really influences my thought. And that one doesn't. That one doesn't. Wow. Let me do a little bit more research on this. Mm-hmm. So I told my FBI consultant, this is what I want to write about. And I said, I want to know how the FBI can get into this, because otherwise I don't need Howard Watson. But as I said, lots of ways.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Did you know your FBI consultant before you started writing all these things, or did you meet him along the way?
No, someone who says he wasn't in the CIA. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I'm winking everybody. He says, I have this friend that would be interested in this. And I go, okay. And then I have this friend that really knows about this. Okay. I have two friends that went to jail for illegal logging. Okay, I want to talk to them. Oh, wow. I have this friend that went to jail for illicit diamonds. Okay, I want to meet them, stuff like that. And then I listen to their story, and then I try to figure out what part of their story is not the truth and what's embellished, and then I go on my own. I say, oh, wow, this sounds really good. This sounds like something people might be interested in. And that's how I look at it. And they are or they aren't. Or they'll say, most of my readers will say, where'd you find this? Or where did you get this? How do you know this? I have to tell you this great story. I was at a book fair. I think it was in Aurora, but I'm not real sure. And these two Nigerians came up to me and they said, are you Joanne Fastoff? And I go, yes, since I had Fastoff on my shirt. And right. But he said, have you ever lived in Nigeria? And I go, no. And I could hear their Nigerian accent. And I go, uh-oh, where this is going to go. And they read my book, The Pact. And The Pact is it starts off because there is a conflict between Cameroon and Nigeria. And it's sometime in the 18th century, the 19th century, Great Britain, the mother of all oppressors. Sorry if I'm stepping on anybody's toes here. Great Britain decides that they're going to give Cameroon and Nigeria their independence. So let's say it was the 20th century, whatever, okay? And the Bakassi Peninsula is literally in Nigeria. But Great Britain gave it to Cameroon, their next door neighbor. So now Nigeria and Cameroon are fighting over this peninsula. Now, this peninsula has potential petroleum deposits in it. But for 25, 30 years, the Nigerians and the Cameroonians are fighting over this peninsula. So the last thing that happened was 25 to 30 women and little children were crossing the peninsula, and the Nigerian insurgents killed them. So my character, my hero, decides that he's seen too much killing and this has got to stop. His father sends him to France, said, you're going to be safe. And he doesn't want to go. He wants to stay with his family, but everybody's dying. Everybody's getting killed. So these Nigerians at this book fair say, how do you know so much about this? And I said, I did research. And he said, you did a wonderful job. And I said, well, would you say that if one of you was Cameroonian, both of you are Nigerian? And the Nigerian said, yes, but you didn't put us in the best light. And it was the truth. And I go, so you like the book? You're going to buy it? And they go, yeah, we're going to buy it. So I get people like that come up to me and they wonder, how do I know this? And I've never been there. And I go, I don't know. I just like research so much. I just want to make sure that what I'm saying is the truth. I'm not changing the Bakassi Peninsula conflict, but I am changing one person's story, that he not only did his father send him away, but he returned at some time in his life a hero. And that's what I like. I like that.
We'll be back with more of Sharon's interview with Joanne right after this. Welcome back to Imprint Radio. Sharon Bolefeld is talking with author Joanne Fastoff.
You've said several times you're changing one person's story.
I'm making one person's story and changing one person's attitude reading it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an interesting approach. It's a sense of both your role as a writer and your sense of your audience, I think.
And so that I am not preaching to you, I let somebody else do it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
In quotation marks, I let that person do it. But whenever I'm saying something that's a fact, I make an authority in the book say it. Talking about, like, let's say, for instance, diamonds. All the things that I just told you about diamonds, the authority says it. And that I'm taking from research.
As I was reading the book, and I can't remember the name of these, the other stones that they were...
Moissanite.
Yeah, I had to immediately go look that. Really? Wow, that's gorgeous. What we should tell our listeners is that you just showed me a ring that looks like a diamond ring for all the world to be.
It's made in a lab. It's from another world because the elements of the stone come from a meteorite, okay, that landed on Earth in the late 20th century. And I think his name, he's French, Moissan. He developed the stone in the lab, and it is the second hardest stone next to a diamond, cost 1/12 of a diamond, because most of the money really is in the setting. But it takes a real gemologist to see that it's not a diamond.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a real gemologist. And that's why I use that stone. And I was so excited when I found out about this particular stone, because I'm going, oh my God. So I have to tell, my husband or somebody, you got to buy this for me. We got to go find where it is. It's not a lot of places, but it's a beautiful stone, and it's, as I said, it's 1/12 the price of any diamond, and it's gorgeous.
It is.
And the only way that you can really tell that it's not a diamond, per a gemologist, is that there's a double vision that you get in the stone. When you're looking at you look like your eyes are like, do I see double or something? That's the moissanite.
And you mention all of these facts in your book, and it's just one of those really detailed parts that move the novel forward. I mean, it's essential that we have this stone in the novel in order for it to move forward. But it's like, wow, now where did she come up with that?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. Things just pop into my head and I go, what is this? Okay, so what I did was I looked up the Orloff diamond, and I'm just looking about, why is this diamond worth so much? Okay, and then Elizabeth Taylor's diamond, and this is like so foggy, the truth in diamonds, okay? I mean, because everybody knows, or anyone knows, that has pawned their diamond after they bought it, and the pawn shop says, I'll give you 1/75 of what you paid for it, then you know it's not worth that much. Okay, you really do, and it's not so much they're taking advantage of you on an emotional level, they're taking advantage of you on a financial level. That's why it's a retailer's dream, okay? So I'm looking up Orloff diamond, and I'm reading all about Orloff and why is this diamond worth it? And then I'm reading, and then I come across the word moissanite. I go, what the heck is this? So then I read about moissanite, and then I got to go really read about moissanite. Then I really got to do some research. So then I got to go to the stores that actually sell moissanite, and I want to see what this stone looks like, so that I'm really able to make you visualize what this stone looks like. So I went to JCPenney because I knew they were one of the people that sold it, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was like, let's say it was a carat, and a carat diamond, let's just say in JCPenney, is $1,200, $1,500. And that moissanite was 1 carat, and it was $300.
Wow.
I would have bought it then, but somebody wouldn't let me, okay? I'm not going to say who in the male version, okay? But so then I did more research on moissanite, and then I said, I like this stone. I like it a lot. And what I really like about it is what it stands for in my life, and that is that I'm not a slave to what people put out there, furs and rubies and diamonds and things like that, So it's just one more way that I don't have to preach to you, but my people do.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, and when you get right down to it, it's a way not to ever have a blood diamond in your life.
Okay. Well, you know what? I say, if I were to say what prompted me to talk about these diamonds, what prompted me, it was my inability to understand what I had been impacted by. And one is something very negative, that children I do not know, I'm taking advantage of them. If there are other things in Africa that children can do, like go to school.
That'd be good.
Like be a kid. But when we put these burdens on them and make their family believe that we're not hiring you, we're going to hire your little kid. You want to eat, you're going to let him work. They have no choice. Or you know what? They have decided they have no choice. Everybody has a choice. Now, one might be worse than the other, but only you can deem that. Only you can deem that. If I were to make a decision that I'm going to eat this earthworm or I'm going to starve, well, I'm going to burn the earthworm first and then I'll eat it. Okay, I'm certainly not going to eat it looking like that. But in my mind, what can I do? What can I do? So they've decided they have no choice. And then they put that major indecision on that little kid.
Who really didn't have a choice.
You know, who did not have a choice. But I am making that decision for that family. That's how I felt.
And when the story came back around, and I don't want to give away any, plot ending details, but when we came back to that little boy, I just thought, wow, no wonder one of your other characters did what she did. That's one of the things that I thought was really interesting. As much as the cast of characters came from all parts of the country and the world, their stories just all came together. There was this connection to each of them, and none of it felt contrived. It felt like, wow, yeah, this is where this particular thread is going to take me. It's got to lead back to here. And that was one of the nice elements of reading the book. One of the things that I liked about it.
Well, thank you. The man who thinks he's my husband, he would never read me. He likes to read 700 pages of something. And I write for a person whose flight was just canceled and they can't get another flight for 3 hours. Well, then you can read Joanne Fastoff. You'll be done in 3 hours. Or I write for someone who takes the L or the train to work every day and takes that same L and train home every day, and they could read Joanne Fastoff in the morning and Joanne Fastoff in the evening. And the other thing is that I like to be that kind of writer where when they're done with that book in 2 weeks, they go, oh, I know I have to find something else that she's written. I know I'm not done. I can't be done. I want to be that.
Yeah,
I want to be that person.
I think you are. Because there's 3 more that I have to go find. One of them's not out yet. How long does it take you to write a book?
Well, The Gordian Knot, my first book, took me 10 years to write it and 1 year to finish it.
Okay.
When I finally made up my mind to finish it, I did. But The Pact, my second book, took 2 years. The Lie, my third book, took 2 years. And now I'm writing the Standing People. Well, The Smoke Ring took 2 years also. Yeah, I'm probably that every 2-year person.
Yeah.
I hope to be anyway, okay? As long as I keep Howard alive, maybe,
Right,
these fingers work.
Sure.
And The Smoke Ring that I'm working on now, I hope to have it done within 2 years.
Stay tuned for more of Sharon's interview with Joanne right after this. We're back with Sharon Bolefeld talking with Joanne Fastoff on In Print Radio.
Do you have an editor that you rely on?
I do.
And how did you find your editor?
Word of mouth. Okay, and he's terrific.
So you've worked with him on all your projects? Word of mouth is one of the things that I've heard from people. Do you have any advice for other writers about how they would find an editor they feel comfortable with?
Editors are looking for me. Okay, they're looking to do something. They can't do anything until I've done it.
That's
so
true.
They're worth their salt. Especially if you have a really good editor, that person's not changing your thoughts. Mine is specifically for grammatical usage. That's it. Doesn't change my context, doesn't change my thought pattern, doesn't say, well, wouldn't you rather do this? No, doesn't do that. He did at the beginning 8 years ago, but once we got to know each other, no, he knows how I'm flowing. He knows Howard Watson now. Howard Watson's telling me what to write now. I would suggest that a person looking for an editor just go to a literary magazine. Go to all the freebie magazines, because all the people who are working like on New City and the Reader magazine and any of those kinds of free Red Eye from the Chicago Sun-Times, anybody that's working on those papers are really working because it's paying their rent or whatever bills they have, but they're looking for a real job in what they do. And a lot of them are editors. And you just put a little ad in some little paper looking for an editor, and they'll get a slew of them.
How would you suggest they make sure they're getting a good one? How do you think they should winnow the field?
You and your editor do not argue. You got a good one. Now, the other thing is it depends on what you need an editor for. Mine's just grammatical usage. But then there's editors who are content. They're people who have areas that they're the best in. Now, you're writing a story. I'm writing a story. I don't know where I'm going with this. I might say to my editor, this is what I'm thinking about. And he says, I think that's overused. Do you? So this is a person that's giving you advice, but this is a person that really, if this person really could write, they wouldn't need you, okay? They wouldn't need me. But this is a person that can correct. And that's what they do. They correct without being lashing at you, you know?
Right.
It's always after he corrects me, I don't feel any pain. I did in the beginning, because writers, as in anybody who's in the arts, we can't let that water roll down our back like other people can. You know, we take it so personal. It's disgusting. And I'm taking it less and less after having 244 no letters in my file cabinet. I'm taking it less and less. But it doesn't hurt. I say, oh, okay. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and then I know that he's only going to grammatically correct my manuscript, and that's what I want him for. And so there's a relationship that you're going to build if you can keep this person, if that person wants to be with you. Mm-hmm.
You said, too, earlier on, you said you have a 3-part development process. Did you learn that from somebody, or did that develop as you started to write?
I have been to all kinds of conferences and seminars to better my craft. I considered myself a storyteller. I didn't know if I was a writer. I think there's a difference, but I've learned that I am a writer, and I can tell a story. So I'm very happy about that. But I didn't know that until I was going to seminars with people just like me. I'm not James Patterson or Alice Walker. I'm Joanne Fastoff, but I'm going to be. But Walter Mosley, one of my heroes, told me, listen to your own inner self. And when you get a character, run with that character, because then it's not a fluke. If you can have somebody read your manuscript in intervals and they say, oh, give me some more, then you're on the right track. So going to just seminars and conferences and listening to other people and listening to authorities, listening to people who know exactly what they're talking about. And especially those people will say, you know what, I really didn't know what I was doing. But then when I did it wrong, I knew I wasn't doing that again. And then they teach you what not to do. You're going to make your own mistakes. But whenever like a school asks me to talk to their creative writing class, I say, listen, this is what I don't want you to do. Number one, don't listen to anybody tell you can't do it. When you hear a no, say, when that yes comes, it's going to be beautiful.
Right.
And that's kind of it.
You said you had a couple hundred no's?
244. They're in my file cabinet, but the 245th was,
So apparently
I wish my listeners could see me do this, okay?
Yes, she's smacking her lips, and she's throwing kisses.
Tastes like Giordano's stuffed spinach pizza.
When you got that 200, where did that come from? Did it come from an editor? Did it come from?
Came from Vantage Press.
All right.
So we like this.
So that's who you work with?
I work with Author House now.
Oh, okay. I talked to somebody else for one of these shows about Author House. Why do you like that one?
Because Author House actually reads my manuscripts. So when I have a cover on my book, They read it. They read my book. And so the cover of The Lie are diamonds at the bottom. Okay.
Right.
They're so beautiful. And it's like a double entendre. That beauty is what takes you in,
right,
and you're not thinking straight. I love that. But she read the book. On The Smoke Ring, she's choosing between two things that I can't tell you, but she read the manuscript. Okay. And when she came up with that second thing, I said, oh my God, this is profound. The Pact was a bunch of flags from different countries, and those were all the people that were involved in the drugs. And then there was money. It was all kinds of bills. So read the manuscript. That's what I like about Author House.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Do you have any visual aids that you like to use? Do you have sticky notes all over the place, or?
I have props.
Do you?
My pink glasses are
Right.
one. I also have Howard Watson. He's on my desktop. There's this. I'll send you this. It's a major picture of him. He's in his black, like detective kind of hat with his black trench coat, and there's a red background. And he faces me, and I'm going, "What are we going to do today, Howard? Is Howard going to do the dishes? I don't think so. So come to me, whatever. Bring me something, Howard. I'm sitting here with nothing, Also, I have my 3 books. They're in big posters on my wall facing me at my desk. It gives me, I feel unbelievably blessed that I've produced those. I know that, God works through me saying, you have something to do. Let me help you out. And puts those books in my face to remind me that something bigger than myself helped me with this.
That's nice. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an inspiration and a reward too, in a way.
I always say in my book, thank you, God, for Howard Watson. Because my first book, the premise came to me in a dream. I woke up at 2 a.m. and I'm writing 10 pages, and my husband at the time said, what are you doing? I said, don't stop me, please, don't stop me. So in my first book, The Gordian Knot, I say, thank you, God, for waking me from the dream.
Wow, that's nice. I think on that note, I should thank you for having spent time with us today.
I really appreciate it.
It was nice to meet you as well.
This is fun.
It was. Thanks.
Sharon and Joanne will continue their conversation next week on Imprint Radio. Imprint Radio. Imprint is a professional writers organization located in Rockford, Illinois. We're dedicated to providing resources and education off the page and on the air. Hello, I'm Bob Francis. Today, Imprint member Sharon Bullefeld continues her interview with Joanne Fastoff.
Joanne, I want to welcome you back to our Imprint Radio show. Thanks for talking to us again.
Well, you are certainly welcome. It was nice meeting you. It was fun.
Well, let's do it again.
Absolutely.
When did you decide? When was that 10th year? What was the thing that pushed you over to finish the first novel? Because you said it took 10 years and then you finished it.
Depression can make you rise or make you succumb. I was going through a divorce, and I just wrote, I said, I'm going to finish this. And then I finished it. Okay. And I don't suggest this for everybody to find something to be depressed about, Right. I know that a lot of singers say that when they're in, they have a bad period in their life, their best music is out. I know Alanis Morissette said that. Unfortunately, I wish she would go back to that particular time, though. But the thing is so it was a personal thing. And then I tell you, after I finished The Gordian Knot, what was so amazing is that I finished it. It went to Vantage Press, and I moved back to Chicago. I was living in Detroit. I moved back to Chicago. Someone broke into my car. I had a ticket on my car, and money that I was looking for didn't come through. And I'm going, this is like, I don't think I can get any deeper than this. I go into Borders store, and their new titles, one was my book, sitting in my face. Oh. It was like, hear this, audience? So that got me through the first book. The reason why I wrote the second book is because I didn't want to be a fluke. Because I didn't introduce Howard to the last third of The Gordian Knot. And then I introduced him in the second half of the pact. I introduced him immediately in The Lie. Right. I introduced him immediately in The Smoke Ring. And he's going to be immediate in The Standing People.
Yeah, I liked him. He was quite an interesting.
I think he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Okay. I say that he's like a cross between Cliff Huxtable and James Bond. He's a really nice guy, licensed to kill.
Well, you do remember before Cliff Huxtable, there was I Spy.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Cliff, I think, was a little bit nicer.
Well, that's true.
But licensed to kill. Okay.
Are you going to stay in this genre? Why did you pick thriller? Did it pick you?
Well, coming off my Tony Award-winning play, Mystery of the Closed Door, I figured I could only go up. Okay. I like mystery. I like reading. When I used to finish The Lawn with my dad, I'd sit in the backyard because then there were other parts of the lawn to do that I didn't have to do. Cutting the lawn was, okay, I was done. I'm sitting in the backyard reading Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew was so me. Okay. She was so me. And so I got my start from Nancy Drew. Then I got into Shakespeare and how Shakespeare writes succinctly. And I go, I like that. Because I always say that as soon as I get somewhere, I'm ready to go, And then I love James Baldwin because James Baldwin can describe a character and you know him. You never met him and you know him because he could describe him. And then I really like Walter Mosley because Walter Mosley could really tell a story. He'd make you go with that guy. Even Mouse, he'd make you go with that guy. Mouse is a killer, but I like Mouse. I want Mouse to have my back, So that's why I made Tim Yamamoto. But the thing is that mystery, if I can just throw something into the spinach and you go, what's that? Oh, it's a little piece of turkey, I want to do that. I just like mystery. I can't read forever. I love intricacies. Dan Brown, when he wrote Angels and Demons, oh my God, I wish I could have written that. What was the other one that I really, there was Dan Brown, a Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, right.
Intricate.
With all the puzzles.
Intricate, yes. And I know that some people have like a little trouble with my writing because I have so many characters, but there's so many people that like that kind of, I don't know what to say. There's a speed in which I got them on this rhythm. And so you're riding with me. Right. And that's how I feel when I'm setting up all my characters. I set them up in my first part of the book.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you see part 2.
Right.
And part 2 is going to be very long. But part 1, I'm setting up everybody. And so there's a mystery in all of those people. Where are they going to figure in this? One of my MO is that whatever you read on that first page, that's what happens on the last page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
So I don't want to tell anybody to go to the last page, but I have to tie up the strings. And so mystery, I like fiction. I'm not a science fiction person, even though my guy, Ahmad Waverly, is an inventive guru and he makes all these crazy things. But that's the James Bond kind of aspect of it,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you need somebody who's a tech person.
I like Ahmad,
Mm-hmm. Do you have a particular way of developing each of the plot points they must be in each part of the phases of the book, and when you get to a particular person, does he or she dictate what's going to happen around him or her? I mean, clearly with Tim Yamamoto, part of his expertise is his ability to speak Japanese. Now, does that mean he's not going to show up every time because we don't need Japanese? In the newest one, are we going to have somebody who can speak Chinese?
Okay, well, Tim is a forensic specialist.
Well, that's true.
Okay, so in the Pact, the second book,
right?
He has all kinds of forensic background. Japanese is just the creme de la creme.
Well, and that's part of my weakness in talking about your characters is that I have only read one piece that's now in the middle of 5. But I recognize that when you put him with, and I can't think of the female agent.
Janet Forrestal.
Yeah. She also speaks Japanese.
That's right.
Both of them for very good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was just a really interesting way to get a mini team together because they have these similar talents.
Yeah.
And so it's logical to put them together. When you developed all these characters, did their talent that you need come first?
Absolutely. I have to make people pertinent. Why are you here? Well, there's got to be some relevancy, okay? I just can't throw you with him just because you're an FBI agent. But you're an FBI agent who's fluent in Japanese, just like Tim. And you also know that they were in the academy together and they were partners. And that's what made it so wonderful.
Yeah, I did think that her eyes on him when, he already had, that was kind of an interesting part of the story, that there's
I'm not going to do a
little triangle.
Alert. No spoiler alert for the smoke ring. Okay.
Oh, okay, good. That's good to know, though. It is kind of not a spoiler. It's just like an enticement. It's like, okay, let's see where the next step goes, right?
None of my books are sequels. They all stand on their own. So
right.
You don't have to really know about how Howard got started or anything like that unless you want to. But the thing is that whenever I start my new book, I always say FBI Special Agent in Charge, Howard Watson. So I don't just say Howard Watson and then you find out he's an FBI agent. I made sure you know who he is up front, who Tim is, who Ahmad is, who the bureau chief is, Alberto Marino. I want you to know this, and then, if you like the story, you say, well, maybe I'll read something else of Joanne's. Right. And then you'll see other books by Joanne Fastoff, and then you'll see those books, and then maybe you become my fan. And that's what I'm looking toward.
Well, I have. I would definitely recommend
right.
Yes,
okay,
I would recommend you to other people.
Wonderful.
Do you have any just general advice that you would give to a writer who's starting out, something that you think they should keep in mind through the process of getting started?
Wow, that's a biggie. Persevere. Don't listen to people tell you can't do it, especially if they haven't. And I'm sorry to say this, but your friends and your family are the worst, and they don't mean harm, they just are. So you know absolutely if you're going to be a success that those kinds of things are thrown into the stew, the closest people to you, saying, well, you're taking too much time on this. I don't know. There's so many books out. People are doing this, people are doing that, and don't listen. It's all garbage. What is it that you do? The only people that can tell you that you're not doing it right are the people who do not buy your book. If it's not selling, if you're not getting it marketed correctly, those are the people who don't believe in you. And therefore, and you know what? Even with those people, maybe you say to yourself, I'll go elsewhere. I'll get a second opinion, just like with a doctor. And so stop listening to them. And that's what I tell 8th graders all the time. I tell them, and also what I bring into the classroom is the Library of Congress that has me down, and I'm a legacy now. My books in perpetuity will be available. My children, their children, and my name is always going to be there as an author, because the Library of Congress says, here's your ISBN number. Yes. So that's the greatest thing in the world, is to see your name on something that leaves a legacy. My grandfather clock to my daughter, whatever. But the fact that she has my books, and this is my mom, and my grandchildren will have this, and their children, and then maybe I'll be in some time capsule. I don't know. Maybe they'll be looking at me in 100 years saying, Joanne Fastoff, whatever. I'm the new bard, the bardette,
Stay tuned for more of Sharon's interview with Joanne right after this. Welcome back to Imprint Radio. Sharon Bolefeld is talking with author Joanne Fastoff.
You said ignore the family if they're going to try and steer you away.
No. Not so much ignore the family. Ignore the people who are closest to you.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are afraid of success. They know what failure looks like. They've done that.
Right.
But they might not know what success looks like, so they're afraid. When people tell you no, don't, they're really afraid for them.
Right.
But it's vicariously through you. So they might want you to succeed. They really, really might want you to succeed, but they're afraid for themselves, so they put it on you. when they say you're not my source of disturbance, I really am my source of disturbance, but I'm putting it on you.
Right.
Okay, so don't do that. You might get hurt. Really, you're afraid. And maybe I'm not. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
So
what I was going to try and ask about it when I spoke badly was, who do you go to? Did you become a part of any like small writers groups? Do you have
Yes.
friends that you rely on?
I'm in the Chicago Writers Association as it is. And those are all authors. They're writers. The difference between a writer and author is one's published. Writers and authors and speaking bureau. And the Chicago Writers Association is so wonderful because here I feel like I'm on an island and no one around me is an author, but all of them are. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I get a major surge from those people. And those people send me to Printers Row, and I go to Harlem, New York Book Fair, and things like that. And all those authors that are around me, they're like people. They're just like me. We're all on islands, and I'm just trying to get back to wherever I came from. I just don't want to be invisible, and it's not so much an egomaniacal thing. It's just that I just think that I have some stories to tell, and I just think that there's an audience out there that want to hear me.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the writers group is a way of helping you get through maybe
Absolutely.
some of the tough times when you're working
helping me speak,
Right.
helping me read from my book, because I can't read this. Listen to my voice. I have this corny voice, But if I read it, if I go into myself like they've taught me to do, go into myself and speak it like I wrote it, close my eyes if I want to, whatever. I can't do that because I have to read it. But the thing is that be my book. Make somebody think, oh my God, I love the way what she wrote. And maybe I said it in a poignant manner and they got it. Or maybe I said it in a very angry manner and they got it. So they've taught me how to do that.
Now that's something I wasn't aware of.
And not in the sense that Saturday is a seminar to teach you how to speak. No, that's not it. Printers Row is happening. You're going to be there. I'm going to help you. This is how you do it, Joanne. Get out there and bark. Get out there and be yourself, okay? Now, if being yourself is shy, then go find somebody to help you not be shy because you want to sell your book. You want to sell your book. What is it about your book that somebody wants to buy? Well, it's a great story. How would they know that? Well, they can read it. They got to like you. They got to like something about you. And if you're completely different than the way you write, then they're going to believe that you didn't write it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. People read my stuff, they know my rhythm. They say, oh, she wrote that.
Right.
Okay. So maybe somebody gave me some advice on some things to say. I still wrote it in my own manner. I can't write romance. I don't have it in me. But sometimes you just have to go inside yourself and you say, close your eyes and just say it, okay? Oh my God, okay. Whatever.
And yet your book is not devoid of romance, the one that I read. There is definitely some stuff going on with
you have to
people.
read the smoke ring.
Okay.
Smoke. Okay. So anyway, so those are just some of the things that I've learned through the Chicago Writers Association, being myself and being a little bit more than myself, almost an embellishment of myself. Well, maybe I'm enhancing this, but the thing is that, I have something to tell, and who can tell it better than me? Nobody.
I checked out your website earlier, and it's a real different look of a website. Now, did you do that yourself, or did you hire somebody to do it?
I have these guys, JL and Adam Marks. Oh, they're just so fantastic. They listened to me on what I wanted on my website. Luckily they knew me a little bit, but the more we did the website, the more we became more and more friends, tighter and tighter. And then all of a sudden they said, no, Joanne, that's not you. Excuse me, JL, I think I know me. No, that's not you. Okay. Or then I want to, I have a gallery of pictures where whoever's at like my book fair, whoever I've met, I want pictures with them, but I don't want names because I don't want to say that this is Joanne Fastoff and Stedman Graham, because there's another person there that's not Stedman, and I don't want to leave their name out. So let's not put anybody's name in there. They're just people that I've met, and that's all I want other people to know, is that all you did was touch my life, and I can go on. But JL and Adam are just wonderful. It's JL Jordan and Adam Marks. And they're web developers and designers and whatever they're called, but they're fantastic. And they listen to me, and I said, I want pink glasses, I want a pink phone, whatever, stuff like that. So, and
there's a couple of girly girl things on there.
Right. And they're guys. And I go, I don't want black sunglasses. I want pink ones. Okay. And they go, okay. And then someone gave me a pair of pink glasses too. And it sits on my computer,
That's great.
Yeah, it is really cute. Yeah.
Did you find them also by word of mouth?
I knew them. They live in Hyde Park. I knew of them. And then I know that they're web designers and developers And so I said to JL one day, JL, I'm looking, can you do a website for me? And he goes, well, yeah, da-da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden, it was done. I mean, it wasn't just done because they consider me a cranky client.
Oh, really?
But that's what they tell others, but they're lying. They love me.
At what point did you decide you needed a website?
Having a third book. I wanted to be taken seriously. I figured having a website is credibility, and I wanted a specific kind of website. I didn't want I've seen websites and stuff. I wanted one that people would say, I think I know her. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know what you got out of the website, but I think that you feel as if you're just a little closer to me by knowing all these things about me, by seeing all these kind of pictures that I'm involved in, the things I write about. I'm big on environmental issues. So
absolutely. That is one of the things I learned. I also learned that you're part Creek Indian.
Well, my grandmother was part Creek. I'm 12%. They probably wouldn't even consider it. But in the Standing People, that's a Creek term, Creek and Seneca term. Okay, Standing People. So, yeah.
It comes out a little.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's interesting. There's a few people I know with Native American backgrounds, and I know them all because they're writers. So there must be a creative gene flowing through.
Well, I consider myself 44% black, 44% Russian, and that 12% Indian, that's the only one that calms the other two. Okay? Okay, right. Calm down. I'll give it credit, okay?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You also, now you have you were an editor are currently still an editor for the Chicago Defender?
No. I was an interim managing editor.
Okay.
At the time they were looking for an editor, and I really only wanted to do that until they got an editor. So then they started taking their time, and I'm in Detroit at the time, so I'm commuting back to Chicago 3 days a week. And although it was only a 4-hour drive, it was a bit much, and I said no. And then I moved back to Chicago, but I didn't take the job. Okay, and I was one of the people that was pertinent in deciding on who they were going to get, because I knew what the Defender needed, okay, and they got the right person,
That's good. Did you have a lot of journalism in your background?
I did not. I've been a copywriter for television and for radio.
Okay.
So, you follow the AP process. As long as it was a great story to me, as long as it was well written, AP would take care of grammatic, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's
so. Yeah, and I liked that job, but for the length of time that I had it.
Did it make any difference to you in terms of your process and your personal discipline? Do you write every day? Do you have a schedule?
Every day. I write every day, and as I said, before my head hits the pillow, I have written, I can't tell you what happened today. I will talk tomorrow, or I met him. Enough said. And then the next day I'll say, well, let me tell you what him's name is, whatever. Right. Something like that. But I try to write every day. And trying to finish my last book, The Smoke Ring, I had 44 days to finish it. And so I knew I had to do 2 pages a day because I had 88 pages to finish. And I said, I got to do 2 pages a day. And 2 pages of text is a lot. It really is, when you're talking fiction. But then all of a sudden this lightning bolt hit, and I got the ending, and so then I knew how to fill it in. But I write every single day. That's a discipline that I have, and because I'm the only person writing it. It's not like I can say to my daughter, could you come and finish these 88 pages for me?
Right.
No. Or can you come and give me 44? No. So Joanne has to finish that, and so with that discipline, I'm forcing myself. But sometimes that can be negative because I force myself and it doesn't sound right. Then I got to go back. But a lot of writing is just re-editing. It's looking at it over and over and over again. And then I get to a point where, and I'm not the most patient person in the world. In fact, some people have called me Dr. Death. And I go, slough it off, okay? But after looking at something over and over and over again, I don't want to look at it again. So I put it away, and I might put it away for 3 months. And a lot of people say I'm in a writer's funk. I think that's what happens. You look at this over and over and over again, and nothing's coming. And then something comes, and then you get that spark and it turns into a fire.
Do you work on multiple projects at a time, or do you pretty much go through one until you're done with it?
You writing projects, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I try not to because it'll throw me off on something that's major and that my novels are major. But I do write, like I wrote for Examiner.com, and that's environmental issues, and I was growing a vegetable garden. Right. So that's something real completely different, right. And I can do that because it has nothing to do, it's not competing with what I'm doing. Or I have a blog, and it's called Writer of Some Note, and I was against the CTA, so I had this thing going, whatever. And that was fun. Completely different than what I'm writing about, so no competition. I have a PR and marketing background, and I'm consultant for a restaurant. So that gets in the way because that's creative. And then I can't do this on the side, which I really want to do. And maybe I shouldn't be doing the PR and marketing thing. So right. I gotta feel on that one. Where's a balance there?
Right. Mm-hmm. But clearly you have a variety of ways that you write. Mm-hmm. So no matter what you're working on, you're writing something every day.
I'm not a great technical writer, but I'm technical a lot in my novels, but I have somebody else saying it because I have to do so much research on that technique and making it flow, sounding like that character really said this instead of Joanne saying it. Right. And then another thing is that I have to always maintain that Howard Watson is a man, and no matter how the most best, perfect, whatever woman I could be, I'm not a man. And so therefore, I always have to ask a man, would a man say it like this? And they would say something like, no. Well, how would a man say it? Well, he would say it like this. And I go, okay, and I'm not trying to get off in making him such a man, but I don't want anybody to say, this guy sounds like a woman trying to sound like a man. And I don't want that. I want guys to read it to say, I like this guy. I like this dude, whatever. So those are some of the things I have to maintain. And if I'm writing other creative things, it'll throw me off on maintaining that integrity.
Right. Mm-hmm. So as far as the novels are concerned, you try and focus on one project at a time and
I do.
Get through that. Yeah,
yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now that we've really talked in great length about your writing and your process and where you're going, I want to thank you again for having come out to Rockford to talk to us.
Well, Rockford is one of my favorite cities. I like Rockford a lot, and your questions were just wonderful, and I'm just happy to be here.
Thanks.